is not my first rodeo.
Welcome back into the Mark Cox Show. Glad that you're with us. I played that one of the greatest hits there from Hillary Clinton from the 2016 election, primarily because the Democrats have sort of done an autopsy of the campaign themselves, and there's a great article on it today. And in fact, McClatchy has got an article on this, and we'll talk more about that in a couple of minutes. But right now, we're joined by one of the authors of the new book called Shattered, sort of a inside look at Hillary Clinton's doomed campaign. Amie Parnes is joining us right now. Amie, welcome into the show. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, well, thank you for giving us some time. I know we were trying to get your co-author as well. I don't think either we haven't been able to reach him or maybe he's going to call in later, but is it okay for us to go ahead?
Of course.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
good. So I can't wait to read the book because I've seen a couple of interviews with the two of you regarding this subject, and I was reading up on this report that's been done by the Democratic political firm Global Strategy Group. They've reached the conclusion that Hillary Clinton lost because she had a big problem with voters who supported Obama in 2012 but backed Trump 4 years later. Was it that simple?
It's that, and it's a million other things, including what my co-author and I detail in the book, which is a problem with messaging, a larger image problem that sort of loomed over her campaign, resulting from the email controversy and her speeches to big banks and other things. You know, she evokes sort of a visceral reaction from folks, so everyone had an opinion of her. And you know, there was also infighting in the campaign. There were lots of problems.
Now, obviously, a lot of people who were in her campaign were very bitter after this loss. How in the world? I mean, I have the utmost respect for how you managed to get them to talk about some of the inner workings of this campaign. Was it because of their bitterness that they were willing to talk? I mean, these are still big Hillary Clinton supporters, right?
Yes, and many of them, you know, we interviewed more than 100 people inside and just outside the campaign in Clinton world. But I think John and I, my co-author, wrote a previous book, HRC, on her time at the State Department. So we knew a lot of these folks. I think they trusted us. We obviously all thought the outcome would be different and that we would be publishing a book during a second Clinton presidency.
Right.
That didn't go as planned. But I think, you know, our goal here was to basically talk to as many people as possible. We interviewed everyone on background so that they would give us the most candid, accurate version of accounts. And I think that was what we aimed to do, and that's what we did. We're essentially telling their story. That's why this book is so unique, because it's not just our opinions of the campaign. It's actually the inside story of what happened.
So from one of the snippets that I read, it seems there was a little bit of paranoia in the campaign based on what happened in 2012. How did that play into the loss this year?
Well, I think they tried to, in some ways, fight the last war. And a lot of what we saw in 2016 was actually something that they tried to correct from 2008 when for one thing, Secretary Clinton back then was the inevitable candidate. And she became that again, we found, because she didn't really have a message that she was pushing. She didn't have a reason for running again. And we talked to someone inside, a senior advisor inside the campaign, who basically said, I would have had a reason for running or I wouldn't have run. And that's from someone who was, you know, up there with her and advising her every day. And I think a lot of people still didn't think at the end of the campaign that she gave people a reason for why she wanted to be president.
Did you quote somebody in your book as having said that they joked that maybe her theme should have been, "It's my turn"?
Yeah, it's a common theme, actually, and I think that was a major problem for her, that people knew what Trump was about. They knew that he wanted to make America great again. If you asked most people on the street, they could tell you that, and they could tell you that he wanted to build a wall and what his positions on trade were. With her, she was pushing so many things that it often got a little convoluted, and people didn't really understand why she was running and what she would do better than Trump.
We're talking to Amie Parnes, who's one of the authors of Shattered, sort of a glimpse inside Hillary Clinton's doomed campaign. Jonathan Allen is the other co-author of the book. What about the relationship and the interaction between the former president, Bill Clinton, and Hillary with the campaign staff? She was rather insulated through this whole thing, wasn't she?
Yeah, and in fact, he wanted to be sent to various places, and he kept kind of sounding the alarm. The campaign was very reliant on data analytics. And I think that was what drove many of their decisions. And Bill Clinton, who's actually one of the greatest politicians, he's a glad hander, and he knows how to schmooze like the best of them. And he was basically saying, you're not sending me to the right places. You are, I need to be sent to these places. I'm getting a different feel on the ground. And there was pushback coming from Brooklyn. And I think that was actually problematic because he could have helped her. I think they were keeping a tighter leash on him this time around because in 2008, a lot of people thought that he was, stepping into it and getting into trouble, and he kind of had a blind spot when it came to his wife. But yeah, so they didn't utilize him in the right ways, I think a lot of people feel.
Amie, it looks like your partner Jonathan has joined us now as well. Jonathan Allen is on the phone line with us as well. And Jonathan, we've already been talking a little bit to Amie about your book, Shattered. Welcome in.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. We've talked a little bit just to kind of catch you up on sort of the inner workings of the campaign and the fact that Hillary Clinton seemed to be kind of isolated or insulated, I should say, in the interior of the campaign. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that's absolutely right. There were, her main gatekeeper is Huma Abedin. Folks may know her as Anthony.
Jonathan, are you there?
You got me?
Yeah. I'm sorry, you faded out a little bit. Sorry, go ahead and try that again.
I was just saying, Huma Abedin acted as a gatekeeper, and in addition to that, I think there were a lot of people in the campaign that were afraid to bring up problems that were going on while it was happening.
So, Jonathan, I'll direct this one to you too. How much of the book, Shattered, takes a look at the last couple of weeks of the campaign? Was there is that where the worm turned, so to speak? Did they lose focus on these important states in Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania? Does it kind of construct how that went down?
It does. In fact, we have the first real TikTok of what went on inside her hotel room on election night itself, and before that, a chapter called Red October that discusses the influence of Russia in the campaign, and James Comey letter that came out at the end of October, and all of these things probably had some impact, but also there were a lot of things that Hillary Clinton did to damage her own campaign. My guess is Amie's probably talked a little bit about that, but basically this is the blow by blow of what happened in this campaign and when things went south. As far as Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania go, Pennsylvania, she campaigned as hard as she could there. Wisconsin and Michigan, not the case. Her campaign, as we report, believed that it was bad for her to let people in Michigan and Wisconsin know that there was an election going on. They felt that the more people knew about it, the more likely it was that people who were against her would turn out. So they kept her out of those states. And that goes back to a bigger fight that was going on between the campaign manager, Robbie Mook, and some of his elders, including Bill Clinton. They believed that she should be out there trying to persuade people who didn't agree with her. Robbie had pretty much given up on persuasion and was really just trying to get turnout of the Democratic base.
Right. Yeah. And Amie, we talked about this a minute ago. Bill Clinton, everyone I know who's ever met him said they walked away feeling like they were the only person in the room when he was talking to him, sort of that charisma that you talked about. Did as a candidate, did Hillary Clinton intentionally spurn him for the advice of Robbie Mook?
I think she believes in evidence-based conclusions, and I think that was a problem, that she really wanted to rely on the data that was coming in. She felt like that was the way forward, and I think he was kind of at the opposite end of the spectrum.
So I guess I'll direct this to both of you, since you spent so much time researching this and getting to know some of the people on the inside of her campaign. Is the Democrats have talked a lot these days about where they go from here and how they kind of put their coalition back together. Did you find evidence in writing this book that they didn't orchestrate that properly, and had they done it better, they would have won? Or did you see problems that are going to linger possibly into the next election, 2020? I'm sorry. Are you there, Amie?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
At me. I think that, I think people realize that this one, this election cycle, she wasn't the right candidate, I think, for this particular time. There's this rise of populism happening on, you see Bernie Sanders and basically everything, all the excitement behind his campaign. You saw Donald Trump on the other end, and the excitement that he was bringing. And she was sort of, she didn't really understand what was happening. And I think, in one scene we have in the book, we detail how she's basically confiding in a confidant and saying, I don't get what's happening. I can't wrap my arms around this. And I think that's a problem. That's something the Democratic Party, I think, is going to kind of take a harder look at and kind of put forth the best candidate for the time, I think, and to not feel the need to sort of rely on who people think is the best or the inevitable candidate so much. They learned this lesson twice, I think, in the 2008 primary and then once again in 2016.
So Jonathan, one last question. What is your book? How does your book treat the email scandal? Was it something they continued to just believe that people wouldn't care about, or did they undervalue the impact that was having on the voting public?
Both of those and more. We go into pretty sharp detail about this. The email server story broke in March of 2015, a month before she announced her candidacy. Secretary Clinton chose not to apologize for that for months. During those months, the summer of 2015, Bernie Sanders started to gain traction. Her credibility numbers were falling. A lot of Americans believed she was dishonest, not only Republicans, but some Democrats. And you see that is a motif of this entire campaign, is the email scandal and how it affected her credibility. All of the things that James Comey, the FBI director, did wouldn't have been done had there not been this odd email server arrangement. He decided not to prosecute her, but then condemned her. There was a lot of controversy over that. Then he releases a letter saying that the investigation's being reopened. I think that was October 28th, while people are already early voting. Then he comes out and says that, no, they didn't find anything new right before the election, reminding people yet again of this email server. And I think there were a lot of voters who had qualms about her honesty. It certainly was something that rallied Republicans, and I think it depressed Democrats a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. Jonathan Allen, Amie Parnes, they're authors of Shattered: Inside Hillary Clinton's Doomed Campaign. I'm looking at the Amazon.com page with the book up there, so you can get it in Kindle or hardcover or Audible or whatever you're looking for, and I can't wait to read it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much. We hope you like it.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much. Jonathan Allen and Amie Parnes joining us there. Wow. It sounds like they were able to get some pretty honest analysis from these people these are the people we saw sitting in the front row of Hillary Clinton's speech she gave a day or two after the election, just sobbing. I mean, tears running they couldn't believe what happened. But it sounds like within the campaign, there was a lot of movement going on in the wrong direction. We'll look forward to reading that. You can also always get that audio with our interview on 971talk.com, and we'll put it out on Twitter and post it on the Facebook page as well. 314-969-9797. Congrats to Joe from Smithton, Illinois, who won our ticket giveaway today. We'll be doing that again tomorrow. We'll get back with more of your phone calls right after this.
This is the Mark Cox Show. Air Comfort Service Heating and Cooling. Weather with Dave Murray.
Mostly cloudy skies on this Monday. A couple of spotty showers, 59 for the high. Tonight, 48. Tuesday, lots of sunshine. It's a warm day, and with all the low-level moisture, it's quite humid on Tuesday. Here comes another round. It's not a repeat of the last 5 days, but another round of rain Wednesday and Thursday, just adding to the flooding. I'm Fox 2 meteorologist Dave Murray for FM News Talk 97.1.
The Mark